What's up, guys? It's Jordan.
And it's Christy.
And you're watching
Baggage Claimed.
So, guys, this is part 2 of Let's Talk Race.
Yes.
As you can see, we are without a panel today. Chrissy,
Yes.
you want to tell us why?
Okay, well, so we in Louisiana have been issued a stay-at-home order as other places, but the difference in Louisiana is that the numbers have definitely risen. And so what we decided to do was to continue social distancing and take the proper safety measures so that everybody can be safe. Because at the end of the day, guys, these videos are very important.
Yeah.
Conversations that we have are very important. But what's more important
Is our health.
yes.
You know, we want to
people.
live.
Absolutely. So,
Jeez.
you know, in efforts to follow those regulations and maintain safety, we will be picking back up at a better time.
So we've decided to continue the series, and we're going to talk about Black privilege.
Yes, and that gives me the heebie-jeebies. It gives me the heebie-jeebies for a number of reasons. So I think first off, and we talked about this, we're going to define Black privilege, okay? Because there's so many different connotations of what Black privilege means.
Yeah.
There's no actual definition,
It's
so
really
to speak,
not.
of Black privilege. And I think that's something that's been
Yeah.
kind of taken out of context in a lot of different ways. And so we're just going to first define what we are talking about so that you guys are on the same page with us. I think that one of the connotations, and just to kind of share that has been taken as a result of this usage or overusage of Black privilege is more so Black privilege on a broad scale. So in America, there's Black people with privilege. And so that is kind of what people, our society has known Black privilege to be. Mm-hmm. Black people have all of these advantages that other people don't necessarily have. And I've seen them used. You know, I've seen some of the examples be maybe the fact that we can have specific organizations that are for only Black people.
Right.
You know, and so we're going to, in this definition that we'll give, and also in the context that we'll give around the certain things that we're talking about, we may hint on a little bit of that. But we're talking about Black privilege amongst mainly Black people.
The Black
so
community,
the privileges that we do have, that certain Black people may have in the Black community, and how that sort of changes over time as Black privileged people, using my finger quotes, begin to start to try to accept higher leadership positions in major corporations and things like that. So, Jordan, I will let you define the Black privilege that we are talking about today.
Ooh, how do I put that into words?
Okay.
So, Black privilege in the Black community. There is this privilege that Black people, some are born into. You may be born into like a wealthy family or something opposite of low income, right? And then you also have Black people, some may be born, you know, into low income homes, but then they develop and they really work hard up the ladder and they end up in this position where they are experiencing this privilege as a Black person that the other Black people wouldn't experience on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of like a shift when you begin to experience privilege and all you've ever known is the lack thereof.
Right.
So having only known the latter, you walk into this privilege and you're like, I'm not privileged.
Right.
Are you kidding me? Like I've never... I don't have any benefit because I'm Black. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, it's definitely a sort of switch that kind of comes on here. I've seen celebrities, and I don't want to go to a certain angle, but like mainly athletes. Mm-hmm. I've seen athletes become overwhelmed by privilege, by certain privileges.
Oh, and, yes, that is a great example.
So a little
she's an athlete.
Yes, I was a former athlete, and I also had this major dream, and it's still sort of there, to become a sports agent. And so in doing so, I've just kind of studied and researched a lot of athletes, and one that comes to mind is Allen Iverson. Mm-hmm. So Allen Iverson, he came from a struggle. He came from a struggle, you know, so I believe he was an inner city kid, and he had to work really hard for a lot of what he had. And so he had pretty good people in his life that helped him to be able to make it on main stages and things like that, speaking as a result of his athletic ability and his success that he received through doing those things. But nevertheless, after him walking into all that money, all of that fame, Alan talks later on about just how detrimental it was to him, his family. It ultimately ruined the relationship that he had, the marriage that he had to the love of his life. And so after experiencing all the losses that he did, he was still at this time a pretty wealthy guy, right, until he wasn't wealthy anymore. And then when he wasn't wealthy anymore, that privilege that he was experiencing was no longer there.
Yeah.
No longer receiving opportunities, no longer able to call up the same people that he was calling before. And that is, I think, just an example of that falseliness or the falsehood of Black privilege.
Yes.
You know, or just how Black privilege can sometimes be like this. What are those? Mirage? What do you call it? The thing that you see. No idea. So it's like, golly, you'll be in the desert and you see this thing happen. You think you see water in the desert, just like this waterfall in the desert, and you go walking toward it. It's on all the movies, like all the little cartoons. No, you don't watch.
Now you know I watch cartoons.
Okay. Now the purpose of this whole video, Jordan. What is the purpose of this video? Why do we need to even talk about this?
So the purpose of this video is to inform everyone that Black privilege does in fact exist. So, with that being said, you may make it, quote unquote, you may make it, and there may come a point where you may experience discrimination because of your race. Not saying that you will, but there is a strong possibility that you could, only because of your race.
Yeah. So,
question number 1. Is there favoritism shown towards Blacks when they experience Black privilege? Is it?
Is it? I was about to ask you the same thing. Okay.
Me personally, I would say that there is a sense of favoritism, because when you're looking at like corporate America, or you're looking at somebody who's outside of the Black race, and they see this person who appears to have it, who appears to be the package or whatever. If they're up against a person who is, from a low income home, or who doesn't have these, or who doesn't have this last name, that everybody knows, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go with this person because they are one, their family is well known, or they just have the package, and this other person just doesn't. And so that could look like Black privilege, and this is something that I guess the lower class of the Black community is like, I don't have a chance because they have a privilege that I don't have.
That's very interesting, because it makes me think about how, so I think that the narrative of Black privilege is in fact accurate in the context that we're using, but I think that it often gives us this false sense of superiority. And so to Black people who may be on the fence about even the fact that like racism sort of exists, and that there are racially charged things that do happen in the world, and that other people that look like them may experience, it kind of puts you in this category of, hey, I see the world through this one lens, and my lens says that if you just work hard and you do what you need to do, then everything's going to come to you. And so nevertheless, there are people out there that are working hard in doing those same things, but lack the resources. And they also lack the who you know. And that's a very powerful tool. We learn about that in business all the time.
That's a very powerful
who you know, making the right impressions. And so there are a lot of factors that aren't really taken into consideration, and we'll see that, and it causes us to look at life through only this one lens. And when we talk about these things, we both have the desire to one day make a whole lot of money, be able to help a lot of people, build generational wealth, like that, teach people, like that's a desire that we have. And so these conversations that we do have and the vulnerability that we share on here is for us also to remember where we are right now. Remember where we are going through this process, so that when that day does come,
we are aware.
Yeah.
We are aware.
Yeah.
I am reminded of the time I was in high school. I went to Baton Rouge Magnet High School, the best high school in Baton Rouge. Forget all y'all other schools. But anyways, we went on this field trip, and this field trip was it was with all schools in East Baton Rouge Parish. Maybe some other ones or whatever like that. But my school is very diverse. Some of everybody goes there or whatever like that. But my school is one of the higher academic performance schools in the state or whatever.
Okay.
And so I made this comment to one of my friends, and I was like, is it me? Or does it feel like we're better than them? And she said, no, it's just you. And at that point, I knew that I was really taking advantage of black privilege because of the school that I was associated with. I love my school, but I was still in this hierarchy of, hey, you know, you're better than them. You know what I'm saying? Ooh. And so I had that realization in high school, and I still remember it till this day. So that's just one example.
That's so interesting. Like, I mean, when it comes to schools, like, I mean, of course, there's this sort of, I'm gonna kind of call it a divide, okay? Because when it comes to like education and higher institutional learning and all that, we have, of course, like in Louisiana, there are several different schools. We have, of course, Grambling State University, which is a HBCU. I knew he was gonna pick me up there. Yes. And we have schools like LSU, ULM. We graduated from ULM, and Louisiana Tech. Yeah, there's a lot of different schools in Louisiana.
Nichols
State University, right? So
Southern.
Southern. Oh, so
how
to
can I forget?
HBCUs.
Yeah,
he's from Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
So there's so many different schools in Louisiana, and yet, one of the things that we used to always hear in business class, people would talk about LSU because LSU is like the biggest university in Louisiana. And so it is the major university in Louisiana, most well known in Louisiana. Depends on who we talk about. Okay? But, you know, nevertheless, we would have a lot of people in our classes at ULM that would, you know, sort of feel like we have to work 10 times harder being at ULM to prove that our school should be recognized. Should be recognized as an asset to our resume. So when we're trying to apply for a job in corporate America and we present our resume, because we have ULM on it, we're like, hey, it's got some power behind that. Do you hear me? Like, and I'm pretty sure anybody else around the state too is like, I got some power behind mine. You know, just because I didn't go to the top or the major university, most well-known university in the state of Louisiana, this university has some backing to it. And so just thinking about that and what you just said, it's like, I know that a lot of people sort of like put their shoulders back when it's like, I have that, you walk in and you have like, I have LSU on my resume. Wait a minute. Hire me now, okay? Hire me now.
And it's just expected that you are going to get a job because you went to LSU. It's subliminally being promoted that way as well. Like, you went to LSU. You have a right to act like this. And I think that it's kind of created a problem outside of school in general. It's just created this problem of privilege that we necessarily should not have. You know?
And I think that's something that a lot of people could relate to, whether it's black and white. I think just the whole idea of just school and how, based on what's on the resume, we may think that we esteem higher than other people. And so that is just a natural form of privilege, or the lack thereof, that at some point anybody who's applied for schools has probably experienced and didn't realize, like, of course that's not something that's really talked about as, you know, oh, I'm experiencing privilege or I'm exercising my privilege. You know, I'm just trying to get to the best school I could possibly get to. But that is exactly that's how, like, minute it might, well, I don't want to call it minute. That is how, like Jordan was saying, subliminal. That's how subliminal those things are.
And that's how easy it is to walk into black privilege. Like, that's how easy it is. You don't even know.
Right.
But yeah, that was good. So question number 2. What's the difference between a person who experiences black privilege and a regular black person?
Yeah, we definitely sort of answered that a little bit. And I think what's interesting about it is that there are, of course, even those who don't predominantly experience Black privilege, you can see privilege inside of a lot of those things.
Oh, yes.
Being an athlete, now I've seen different forms of privilege based on athleticism. I'm going to say this because it does, in fact, happen. With athletes, a lot of times there have been Black athletes, and I believe I was watching a documentary about LeBron maybe one day, and it was just kind of talking about how there are people who will start to kind of invest in your gift, so to speak. You're a really good athlete, and you might grow up and not have much, but there are people that start to invest in you. And it's just that, an investment. Now, sure, there are some great people out there that don't try to take advantage of you and your gift, but there are also people that do. And in knowing that is when you are starting to receive those things, or you're starting to get treated as if, you are something that is, of course, superior to all the other Black people. It's like you're in that moment where it feels really great. And you're in that moment where I really need this. But we kind of turn off that sensitivity to the privilege that we're experiencing in moments that are convenient for us.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, I think that's really important in this whole conversation.
Just to be aware that you're in that position.
Yeah. And know,
not
like,
to be selfish.
Be consistent. Yeah. Not to be selfish and to be consistent with this. So in the event that this is something that's being experienced, yes, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's real.
I think there's an abuse involved with that.
Yeah. It's definitely an abuse.
Yeah.
It's almost a mind game too, though. Sometimes, you feel good till you don't. It
Yeah.
sends you on
Like,
this roller coaster ride of like, oh man, I am just
Right.
privileged, no privilege.
Question number 3. How does a person who's a candidate for Black privilege alter the stereotype?
Oh wow. Okay. So this one I'm challenged by because I believe that there had been a point in my life, or periodically throughout life, where I have been privileged as a Black person.
Not Chrissy.
You know what? Yes. So there have been times when I have experienced Black privilege. But you know what? A lot of the privilege that I experienced was, in fact, performance-based privilege that I experienced as a Black woman. I remember when I was competing in the Miss Louisiana pageant. And I was asked a question about Black Lives Matter. Okay, so I had actually, and mind you, my platform at this time was We Matter. Okay, so talk about uninformed. Talk about uninformed. And so it had like the connotations of, or the undertones of all lives matter, and just me being a Black woman that was in fact very uninformed. So knowing that, I started to realize the privilege that I had experienced, because I almost forgot where I had come from. I almost forgot the things that I went back home to do. And so while on the stage and while in the interview room, the conversations were a little bit different. I realized that after a while, because I'm like, wow, Christina, the conversations that you've been happening with people who think differently from you, and you have submitted to the majority way of thinking. You haven't really offered up that perspective from people that look like you are the community that you come from, your environment and your background. You haven't really offered that up. And so it was comfortable for me, because being able to be told that, hey girl, you really said that, or this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing now, or this is the way to think. I don't know why more people like you don't think this way.
But it wasn't from the heart.
This was said, and this is real. But just to avoid going against the grain, and to also, because sometimes privilege is forced because of opportunities, and you're competing in Miss Louisiana, you're competing for a major scholarship. And I mean, like the Miss America organization, you're competing for a major scholarship, and so you're trying to get paid, all while being true to yourself. And so I did stop for a while after that, and I stopped since then, as a matter of fact, when I realized that was happening, because it wasn't something in the moment. I'm talking about that now, but in the moment, I didn't understand what was going on. I was just living in Black privilege.
Wow. Oh, yeah. So I mean, hey, we both gave our experience of Black privilege. So from there, how do you alter the stereotype of black privilege. When you're born into that situation, when you, like I say, when you're born with that last name that's well known, and you're born into people who know the people who know the people, or you end up working hard and you land in that place of black privilege. Good. Don't take advantage of it and abuse it. You know what I'm saying? Don't use it for your benefit when there are other people who work just as hard to get to the place where you are. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Stay humble.
Yeah, stay humble and allow the process to work itself without manipulating it. And I feel like that's what it's been a lot of, just manipulating, because there is this black privilege and I'm destined for that position. When the real fact of the matter is that, hey, somebody else could have that position as well.
Yeah. And when you do, and this is not to make black people say, hey, you don't deserve these major positions. Right. And so if somebody else may deserve it more than you, don't go after it.
Right.
No. Please go. So please go after it
the right way.
Right. Absolutely. And people are most definitely rooting for you. People want you to succeed. And I'm just going to say, we want you to succeed, whoever you are, if that does relate to you. But just saying this, one of the things that I was taught by my mentor, Miss Phyllis Booker, the one thing that she used to always tell us to do, even as high school broke girls, no money, she used to always encourage us to pay it forward. And you don't always pay it forward with money. But it may be you being a whistleblower. You might be in a department of your company that sees resumes that traditionally gets pushed to the side.
Right.
You might
be that person that makes that difference.
That is what it looks like.
That is what it looks like. Yeah.
Be a change agent in your position.
Yes. And also be aware that in those positions of black privilege, like we said in the beginning, you could possibly be a product of experiencing some type of discrimination, not going into the situation blind all the time. So just be aware,
You are not exempt.
You are not exempt. So,
that's
guys,
reality.
that's what we have for you on Black Privilege.
Yeah.
So we've given you our experiences of how we feel like we were impacted by black privilege and how we manipulated.
We manipulated. Woo! Hey, that's real. It's real.
We manipulated them. I can't, Brown. Come here.
Brown.
I can't even say the
Brown
word.
From Medea. Brown.
But nevertheless, hey, we're here to share our experiences, and we've learned from them, we've grown from them, we recognize where we are, we recognize the positions that we're in even now, even our jobs in the community, and we are paying it forward.
Yes.
So
that being said, y'all, we want to hear what you have to say. If you've had an experience that you want to share that does resemble something that maybe we talked about, or something completely different that may have the undertones of black privilege, we want to hear about it. We really do. And also, we hope that you guys are wearing your masks.
Listen, please.
Staying safe.
Please.
Yeah.
Listen, we don't want no drama.
No drama.
But with that being said, we gonna see y'all next week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, y'all.
Holla.